The Sega Game Gear was a 4th generation color handheld gaming system that battled it out with Nintendo's Game Boy and Atari's Lynx. While Nintendo would go on to win that war by a huge margin at retail, the Game Gear managed to move over 10 million units in its lifetime, and was home to well over 300 pieces of unique software. While many see it as little more than a portable Master System, it actually had quite a few exclusive titles that you couldn't play anywhere else. Those of you familiar with the Game Gear likely already know about the popular games for the device. The Shinobis, Shining Forces, Streets of Rage, and Sonics in this library aren't hard to find, and they are talked about often. But what about the games that don't get a lot of time in the spotlight? Games that are easily missed in the library that is not nearly as celebrated as its rivals. In this episode, I'm going to take you on a journey of discovery of just how good some of these often forgotten gems tend to be. This will be part 1 to an ongoing series celebrating the Game Gear. I've got a nice mix of genres for you too, so I am confident you'll find something here to enjoy. Let's get started. I was not a huge fan of the Master System port of Alien Syndrome. I thought Sega really phoned that one in, and it failed to capture the fun of the original arcade title. To its credit, Sega could have just dropped that same game on the Game Gear and called it a day, but fortunately an entire new version was developed by Sims and released in 1992. While the cramped screen took some adjustment, it's a far better version that actually scrolled instead of locking you room to room like the previous release. There's plenty of weapons you can power up, and the challenge is pretty high for such a short game, coming in at just 4 stages. Those stages have a fair bit of size, however, so you'll be exploring a while to see every corner. None of the 8-bit versions of this game are arcade perfect, but I really dug the Game Gear take on it the most. It was never released in North America, so there may be many of you that missed it. If you're looking for a strategy RPG for the Game Gear, you have to try Crystal Warriors. This is very similar to Shining Force in feel, and I think it gets overlooked far too often. The elemental crystals of fire, water, earth, and wind have protected the kingdom for a long time, but now they are stolen by the evil Jinn, and your job is to get them back. Colorful visuals, outstanding gameplay, and half a dozen class types await you. You can even use the monsters you defeat as weapons in future conflicts. The gameplay is quite streamlined and easy to get into, never leaving you lost or wandering around trying to find the next thing to do. Sega did this one themselves, and it genuinely did the hardware justice and represented the genre well. There's even a link cable versus mode so you can battle a friend. While this one made its way west, its sequel, Royal Stone, remained a Japanese exclusive. Back in 1995, Sega developed a platformer for the Game Gear called Child Zenki. It was a Japanese exclusive and one of the most slept-on releases for this platform. It's based on the anime series of the same name, a story about a young girl named Chiaki and her demon child Zenki. That demon child was a demon god before being transformed, and both characters are fully playable with their own abilities. They also have different routes, which adds to the replay value quite a bit. The platforming gameplay is very easy to pick up, and there's lots of collectibles, items, and spells to procure in the field. The game world is governed by a map and the stages can be replayed to find missed items. It has a very Castlevania feel to its level design, and I am confident action fans will appreciate what it has to offer. There's even an English translation for it now, so there's no excuse not to at least give it a shot. A video game starring Ronald McDonald sounds about as far from fun as you can get. Similar to the Genesis title McDonald's Treasure Land Adventure, it's an action platformer starring everyone's favorite creepy clown mascot. The story is simple. Your friends are trapped in Magical World, and only you can get them back. There are 4 worlds to explore, each with their own levels and bosses to contend with. You'll eat burgers and fries to restore your life, collect keys to open doors, and upgrade your magic stick to do all sorts of neat tricks. It also has a couple of bonus games to play around with. While it isn't the same game Treasure developed for the Genesis, it does share assets and design elements, so if you enjoyed that one, this one isn't far off. Give it a chance and I bet many of you will come away surprised just how charming it actually can be. In 1993, Imaginative System Creates Dormon appeared on the Game Gear, a platforming action title that had you rescuing your friends across different time periods. This was, of course, a Japanese exclusive, and I didn't know anything about it until years after the fact. But once I played it, I really enjoyed it. It's a pretty simple game with lots of jumping, wall climbing, swimming, and even flying across its 16 levels. Those levels are really short and the entire game can be passed in under 30 minutes, even the very first time you play it. Don't let that discourage you. It's still a fun trip and a solid night's entertainment. Japan System House developed Factory Panic, a 1991 action puzzle game that has you getting items like food and medicine to different people that needs them. You'll manipulate conveyor belts with switches to get the job done, but there are guards trying to stop you and a timer you must contend with. Luckily, there are items like extra time to keep you going and stars to give you extra lives. This one will admittedly be divisive because the play mechanics border on an action game much more than a puzzler, making it feel quite a bit different from what you may expect. I still recommend you give it a try. People who dig it will have a game unlike anything else on the Game Gear. The later stages get incredibly challenging too, so those of you that like their games tough will absolutely love it. It was never released in North America, but you'll find Japanese and PAL editions to choose from. Another game not originally released in North America was Namco's Galaga 91. This was originally released in 1991 and is a port of the popular arcade game Galaga 88. Hordes of enemies descend upon you and you need to blast them out of the sky to make it to the next level. The timeless arcade action works well even on the Game Gear's small screen. Some stages are single-screen affairs, while others scroll. There's a few boss fights and of course some bonus areas. I used to play this one on the TurboGrafx quite a bit, and discovering a portable version was awesome, especially one that actually played halfway decent. The PAL version was known as Galaga 2, though the Japanese release is fully playable and has no language barrier. Magical Puzzle Popples is a unique spin on the Rescue the Princess formula. It's a puzzle game from Tengen that was released in 1991. The single-screen action sees our hero moving blocks, avoiding enemies, and using few moves as possible to get the girl. The gameplay is far more challenging than it looks, and some of these puzzles will take many tries to see it through, with over 100 stages in total. After you beat it, you can mess around with the edit mode that allows you to create your own puzzles, which can be saved via the battery backup or can be traded between systems with a gear-to-gear cable. It's known as Popples, the blockbusting challenge in Europe, if you'd like to play that version of it. I slept on the Game Gear Power Rangers games for years. Released in 1994 and developed by Sims, it's a one-on-one fighting game that is shockingly well done. Not just because it was made by the sometimes rocky Sims, but also because it's a television license and they are often throwaways you never look at twice. In the single-player mode, you'll have access to the core group of Rangers and the massive Zords they pilot. In the two-player game, you'll add a few of the villains from the show as selectable fighters. The graphics are decent, the sound is better than you'd ever have guessed, and the Street Fighter style moves are easy to pull off and remember. I also loved how each fight was laid out like a stage, where you had to battle weaker enemies and secondary story-related characters before the main bad guy. If that wasn't enough, a second Game Gear Power Rangers game appeared based on the 1995 film, and if you can believe it, it was just as good, if not better. Again, the gameplay is rock solid for a portable fighter, and the presentation gets the job done with some great color, animation, and music. If you have any interest in the source material, or you just want a good portable fighting game that is well above expectations, you simply have to try these two. It's almost unbelievable that of Sega's available consoles at the time, it's the Game Gear that did this license the best. The Game Gear has a number of great shoot-'em-ups, so it's easy for an early release like Halley Wars to get lost in the shuffle. Developed by ITL of Aeroflash fame, this vertically scrolling shooter was developed in 1991 and deserves a look if you have any interest in the genre. It has a strong weapon system, a cool mechanic where you are literally protecting the Earth from each comet you face, and there are over half a dozen stages to battle across. It also has some solid difficulty settings that should make this playable for a wide swath of gamers of all skill levels. You'll notice that Taito was involved in this, and the original publisher. It's technically the sequel to the 1986 arcade game Halley's Comet, and has a very similar setup and feel. It won't win any gold medals for its speed or visuals, but it's smooth, responsive, and a great addition to the library. Our last game is a gem from Sega and Aspect released in 1994. A dashing tale of a young hero, Coca Cola Kid, is a mouthful of a title, but boy is it a nice little action platformer. If you have played Sonic Chaos on the Game Gear, you're gonna recognize a lot of what it has to offer. Instead of collecting rings and doing loops, you'll be making your way through city streets, factories, and even nightclubs. In these environments, you'll find crates full of things like, you guessed it, Coke cups, Coke bottles, Coke cans, and the obligatory coins, which can be used to purchase extra continues, extra hit points, or a disc that can be used as a weapon. This collaboration also begat a special edition Game Gear system that was red and came with the game included. Because this was Japanese exclusive, I'm going to assume that a great many of you missed it elsewhere in the world. Even in the years since, a game like this could be easily passed up just because of the license. I mean, it doesn't exactly instill a lot of confidence. Give it a try though. I came away enjoying it quite a bit, and you might just do the same. So there we go, some Game Gear games you might have overlooked or may not have known about that I think you might enjoy. Some of those are also still exclusive to the Game Gear, so you can't play them anyplace else. Fortunately, since the Game Gear is easily emulated, I'm sure you can find a way to play them without too much trouble. For those of you that don't have a lot of experience with the rest of the Game Gear library, this was an incredible little system that was often overshadowed by Nintendo's Game Boy. Don't skip past it just because it didn't sell well, however. Many of Sega's classic franchises appeared on it, and some of them are really nice experiences. It even got exclusive versions of titles like Ninja Gaiden, Panzer Dragoon, and Phantasy Star. I've covered the Game Gear a number of times over the years, and if you enjoyed the subject matter, let me know down in the comments that you'd like to see more. The Game Gear really does have something for everyone, even if you prefer Nintendo's efforts. I'm Sega Lord X. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.